Welcome to our 50-second podcast. Today we'll be talking about putting the fun into change. What's the one thing you can do now to make your change fun? Keep listening to find out.
Welcome to Harmonious Workplaces, a podcast about corporate culture, organizational change management, and workplace behavior. Harmonious Workplaces was started by independent consultants Rich Cruz, Ben Kleinman, and Cheryl Volpe to explore, challenge, and build on various organizational culture and change management concepts. It's a blend of theory and practice based on their personal and professional experiences working with companies of all sizes across various industries. If you own a business, lead a team, want new ideas about the corporate environment, or just want to listen to a group of consultants talking about how to make work more enjoyable, we invite you to sit back, relax, and dive in with us to Harmonious Workplaces.
Hello, Harmonious Workplaces listeners. Welcome back. We're bringing the fun today. I'm Rich Cruz, an organizational development consultant, and I'm joined by my co-host here, Cheryl Volpe. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Rich. Hi, everyone.
And Ben Kleinman.
Hi, everyone.
And when we think about change, sometimes the last thing we think about is fun, right?
It's really sad.
And yeah, but it doesn't have to be. But quite frankly, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, it shouldn't feel like work, right? That's what they say. But we thought we'd bring some some element of fun into the workplace here. And have you experienced during your change initiatives anything that was fun and exciting and enlightening and got people talking?
Why not?
For those of you listening on non-video feed, Cheryl's got these googly eyes and is making one of those hand-mouth puppet faces with these huge googly eyes.
That's awesome.
I came from Dragon Con,
It's
and I was a gift to Cheryl from the Center for Puppetry Arts because she wanted a puppet and everybody else had a puppet and she didn't have a puppet and this is her puppet. So that was fun and it was for work.
That's awesome. I love it. I love
Really?
it.
And did
So
that
confusing too. I learned so
did that become like your
After-
mascot for a day or two, or?
It was my friend because the puppet track at Dragon Con, you're up all night and nobody wants to talk to you at 4 a.m. except maybe your puppet. So I'm glad I had one.
I love that.
But that was fun. But it was hard work. And that was the culture. We did a lot. And, MST led the parade. Joel Hodgson, who created the show, had so many panels and tables and casts were there. And it was crazy, but it was fun. And it was that culture of fun. But you had to have a very dedicated work ethic to get things from one room to another, timing from one end of campus of Dragon Con to another. It was so hot during the parade. People had costumes, all of it. But that was fun by contrast to, say, an investment bank from years before, where that culture, you're taking a serious risk at trying to make a joke or bring some levity into a conference room in that
I
kind
can
of
believe
culture,
that.
right? So
Sure.
I'm sure we'll get up to that, but that's my kickoff
Right
answer.
on. Well, that's a hell of a kickoff. Created by a googly eye puppet. I like it. That's
Dang,
cool.
that's great.
And Ben, you
Yeah.
got any
So-
stories of what you've experienced?
Yeah, I think some of the stuff that I've seen work kind of well is just as people tend to join meetings, you never wind up starting any meeting on time, right? So there's always that couple of minutes when you have people who are early, or a minute or two while you're waiting for the most senior person to come in because they're running late. So I found sometimes it helps just to tell a couple of really bad dad jokes just to keep the mood light and get everyone it sort of warms the crowd, right? And if I was coming in as an external and there was very little pressure in that sense. Like I wasn't feeling like I needed to exactly mimic the corporate culture vibe. I had maybe a little bit of license to be a little bit more silly in that sense, and not at all in a disrespectful way, but just trying to bring a little bit of levity. What was really interesting, though, is that sometimes bad dad jokes don't always translate language barriers or different languages. So that was kind of interesting to see how a joke that just sort of rolls off the tongue and everyone who's a native or very, very good English speaker kind of gets it because there's some sort of pun or a double entendre or something like that. If it's someone who's trying to actively translate that, I think that there's maybe a little bit of a miss there. And it wasn't in poor taste or it didn't work out badly in that sense. It was just like,
Sure.
I can see you're all telling a joke and I just don't get it, but I'm glad you're having fun kind of a moment.
Got it. Well, Ben, tell us a joke. What is
All
one of
right.
these bad
Hey, are we ready for our first part of joke 30?
jokes? Joke 30?
All
What's
right.
that?
Let's do. Cheryl, is it time for some light bulb jokes?
Oh,
All
I can
right.
start? I
Yeah,
can tell
do.
mine?
All right.
Alright. How many industrial organizational see, I didn't use an acronym yet. Industrial organizational psychologists does it take to change a light bulb?
How many?
I don't know, Cheryl, how many?
1, but the light bulb has to want to
That
change.
beautiful.
All right. How many change managers does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't know, Ben, how many managers does it take to change a life?
3.
Just one, but first they'll need a detailed impact assessment, a communication plan, and 3 stakeholder meetings.
Oh,
Oh,
All
ow.
right. Dang, right?
Maybe that's not funny. Is there a language barrier for me? Because
You
I
didn't find that
can't
funny?
hear.
Little too close to the bone there. All right, let's try this one. How many change managers does it take to screw in a light bulb?
I, I, I don't know, Ben, how many?
None. They just provide a framework for others to see the light.
Oh, the light. See the
Oh
light.
boy.
Alright, does it mean you're gonna tell 30 of these? Your introduction when you said the number 30? You're not gonna tell 30 light
No,
bulb
I don't
jokes,
think I
right?
have 30 light bulb jokes.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's
What?
let's Rich, do you have one or should we try change management is like dot 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 jokes?
Oh boy. Change management. You go. You
All right.
go.
I'll just do 2 of these. Change management is like dieting. Everyone agrees it's a good idea, but no one actually wants to do it.
That's true. That's
True.
true.
Similar. I'm not quite as a fan of quite as this one's not quite as good for me, but I get it. So change management is like going to the gym. Everyone signs up in January but quits by March.
That's
I love it.
or January.
Yeah, right. January 30
Open February,
31st.
in the middle.
That's about right. Yeah, for sure.
Very funny. So Ben, if I understood what you said earlier, would you come to a meeting prepared with some of these? You would just kind of whip these out in the time that it took for everyone to come into the room?
It's it's somewhat of a seize the moment kind of a thing. For a
Read the
Yeah,
room?
for a while. I mean, this was all over Zoom, right? So there wasn't necessarily a conference room that we were all sort of walking into very serious with our briefs and things like that. It was over Zoom and people would just be coming in as they were transitioning from one meeting to another. And some of it was just very serendipitous in the sense that we had at that time one of those bad dad 365-day bad dad joke of the day calendars. And so some were quite good, and I would sort of build up a little bit of a reservoir of really good ones. And so if the meeting was every week, like a team check-in, or every month, like a little bit more of just a pulse thing, it worked out where I had a handful of these that would sort of fill time as needed.
Okay. Okay.
And some people, it was funny. Like I think I wound up creating a little bit of a bond with one or two other folks who that really resonated with, and so it's a nice way to kind of build some of that, and then it had this interesting effect of at future meetings, people who joined were like, "Where's" we would start the meeting and they would say, "Well, what happened to the jokes? Where are the jokes? Or I would meet people for the first time as the project extended, and they would say, "Oh, you're the guy that tells bad dad jokes." And so it's a little bit of that reputation thing,
Wow.
which can be good sometimes.
Became part of your identity.
You're like the
Yeah,
dad in
your
Finding Nemo. Well, you're a clownfish. Tell us a joke.
Yeah,
You think I'm
yeah.
funny? Oh,
That's that's a different kind of yeah.
that's a
Back
different
to
thing.
Philly.
You do
Get the
remind
crowbars.
you do remind me, I just have to tell I tried to build a rapport with some managers, and this goes back to Morgan Stanley, and I had purchased a thing called the Creative Whack Pack, and it was 52
Uh,
cards that you could kind of spread out on a table and have people pick, and then each person would read the card, and it would sort of be this little warm up, kickoff exercise, and it was supposed to, you know,
Yeah.
invigorate some creative, out of the box thinking. Everybody, if I said that they hated it, that would be like a mild
oh, is that right?
reaction.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
It was projected out of hand right away, and I still have the one card that I picked the one time I got to use it sitting on my desk. It's a reminder to be, humble. I learned a lot. It took a lot of courage for me to go in there with something
Brand new?
brand new,
Yeah.
and it was immediately shot
oh,
down
wow.
by
Yeah.
unanimously.
I've been there.
Every
That's
Brava for
harsh.
doing it though. That's, we gotta
what
change
was
it up.
your what did you try that didn't work?
What did I try that didn't work? Oh boy.
Or that worked? We could do
Okay.
positive.
Well, uh, I think one of the ones that I did in my class earlier this term, right? I came in and I did a juggling thing, right? Because I juggle a little
Yeah.
bit, right? And I thought I told them a story about change management and how this is how we do things now. And I had like one um piece of fruit that I was juggling, right? And I said, "This is easy to do," and then I put in two, and then the whole story was about how complex changes happen. So by the time I'm juggling three, right? I'm telling this story. I'm thinking that I've got them right. Th- They all looked at me like I had, I had just mortified them, like I was their dad that came in and told a joke. It
Oh
was
my
just
gosh.
yeah, I was like, "Oh, this is really sad."
Wow.
Sorry, guys.
That's a that's a
Maybe
great lead-in.
our culture. What's that,
That's a
Vic?
really great way to enter into a
Sure.
story about change. I
I
like that
thought
a lot.
so, but it was I in this you gotta know your audience, and at this time,
Yeah.
it was
You were
not.
you were showing and telling, but, in this day and age, maybe if you had
That
chainsaws
might have
instead
that might have worked.
or baby pigs or
Uh,
something.
you
I
know,
mean, fruit is still
go big or go home. That's right.
yeah, yeah.
This is maybe, related to a way that I've found sometimes it's helpful to put fun back into change, though, is just to tell stories like this
Yeah.
and reminisce about projects that went awry or things that you tried that failed, but now you can look back and with other people at the company, not in a bad way, but with good intent and with sort of humor say, "Oh, yeah, remember that time that I tried to change the culture 180 degrees with some sort of nice team building effort that made us all human and that just got squashed like a bug? Ha ha ha." Right?
Uh,
So there's some sort of kind of team memory that you can evoke, and it's a little bit of a way to sort of loosen up some of the stress in a room.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially too when
You know
I'm sorry, Shel, when it's a little bit self-effacing, that makes it very harmless for others too. Like when Rich was just telling his story where it was very much about him and where he felt like he was failing. It wasn't about us thinking that his audience was just from Mars. It was about Rich realizing that what he was doing was very cool, but just didn't meet his audience. And so that self-effacing humor can be a lot gentler than trying to make fun of someone at someone else's expense.
Sure.
Yeah. And you bring up something that I wanted to talk about on this episode, which I'm seeing a lot of just coincidentally, I think, on LinkedIn, for example, a lot of talk about leaders that are expected to have all the
Mm,
answers, for example. And this idea that leaders who are in that position feel like they can't be human or even, especially not funny. But to your point, Ben, making a leader who has to institute some kind of change or a consultant that has to institute some kind of change, coming into a room and introducing change as a story, like you're saying, that is not exactly going to be horrible or completely um, figured out
sure.
either. This could be a way to make a change more um, accessible to people when they say, "Look, we're going to figure this out together," or this doesn't have to be all hard and grim.
For sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
We don't have the whole thing figured out yet.
I'm sensing the need for a break, so
I
maybe
was
I could
just
read us into a break with 2
oh,
good ones here.
oh, here we go.
All right, I'm
All
ready.
right, my manager said we need to embrace change. So I hugged the new policy document, but it didn't hug back.
Uh,
All right, right before break, here
uh,
we go. My manager
woo.
said we need to embrace change. So I asked if I could switch departments. He didn't laugh. We'll be right back.
Dysfunctional organizational cultures and poorly managed transformations can devastate employee morale and motivation, leading to disengaged employees, poor work quality, and the loss of your best people. The impacts to your organization include high costs, low productivity, and wasted resources. At Harmonious Workplaces, our purpose is to help you build the best workplace possible. We are advisors applying proven organizational development and industrial organizational psychology methodologies to help you become your best organization. We are doers, using time-tested principles to help you execute organizational change initiatives smoothly and successfully. To discover how harmonious workplaces can impact your organization, visit www.harmoniousworkplaces.com and book a free 30-minute information session with one of our consultants today. Again, that's www.harmoniousworkplaces.com.
And we're back. So I actually hold on.
We're not back.
The joke just came to mind. The joke just came to mind.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back. Rich has a joke.
I have a joke. So the poor mushroom was a consultant, and the carrot came over to him and said, "We were told not to talk to you." And he goes, "Why not? I'm a fun guy."
Uh,
Oh, sorry. I
Yeah,
am
well,
so sorry.
that's a
That
good
joke
one.
has been around for a long time. It's usually a bar,
it,
but
you may be a fun guy, but we were told to keep you in
there
the
you
dark.
go.
Oh, yeah. Love it.
I just, I just made that
That
That's
one.
was
really good, Cheryl.
awesome.
And I like for those of you listening in, Cheryl just busted out our and Rich too busted out
Oh,
our patented Harmonious Workplaces mustachios.
Mhm.
So that's always fun. That's another fun way to just do silly stuff.
That's right.
Team building kind of stuff like that.
you don't have your whole bag of them handy,
Don't.
Ben?
No, I'm in the good office today, so I don't.
Oh, there's no fun in the good
It's where
part.
fun goes to die.
That's my college.
Kind of like Rich's university, yeah.
Yes.
Or
Um, No, it's actually you guys, Cheryl, you had the little, googly eye puppet and with the mustaches and stuff. It reminds me sometimes where I've seen teams really it's a little bit more of a team building thing, so it's not like, "Ah, ha, 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 ha," humor, but it's the kind of team building camaraderie thing where it's sort of a fun, um, a little bit of a fun way to build teamwork and have a little bit of that sort of healthy fun competition where there's some kind of thing that is meaningful, a physical thing that is meaningful to each group or to that part of the organization, and it could
Yep.
be a stuffed animal with a corporate logo on it, or it could be a bobblehead of the CEO that's treasured by everyone, and so whoever does, like, a really good job that week, or whoever had a tough project that they came through, or had a really challenging client interaction, but they came out smelling like roses, or whoever sealed the biggest deal or whatever, they get that for the week. And
Hmm.
so then it's like everyone just loves that. And it sometimes it's the silliest stuff that you would see, in a trash heap and you'd walk by and you go, "No, I'm no, not recycling that." And it's just so cool to see people rally around that as a part of their team culture and all that. So that can be a fun way to kind of build camaraderie.
Absolutely.
I've seen
Yeah.
that work well.
Yeah. Pulling in a yeah, some kind of wacky reward
Yeah,
for
yeah.
job well done. Yeah.
And that goes to a little bit of gamification, which sometimes can be fun if it's done in a healthy and, psychologically safe way, where it's about building culture and where it's about building camaraderie, and not so much that sort of Glengarry, Glen Ross type of, if you're not number 1, you're fired" kinda thing.
Sure.
That's healthy.
Yep. And that goes.
Sure. It Oh, go ahead, Ben. Or Rich, you were gonna say something?
I was just going to say that that goes that goes very very hand in hand with Cotter's 8-step change model, where to celebrate the wins and keep and build momentum and keep that going. Um, some kind of outward acknowledgement of a win, right? Just keeps that momentum, the drive to continue to build on your successes, right? It also goes along with the grit, which is Angela Duckworth's, if I'm not mistaken, that book, which is stick in there, be goal oriented, and that whole gamification part of things, whether it's the your own inner game, which is can be quite rewarding, but then having the more collectivist type of game, where it's a team effort to drive towards some goal. Makes
Right.
a lot of research on that.
And that's yeah. And that's culture dependent too, right? Because if the employees as a team don't value the ideas or the goals behind those kinds of competitions, you'll have your naysayers and you'll have the people that don't want to
Mhm.
participate, right? And and this reminds me of Traction, right? Ridge
Sure.
and Ben, the book that
Oh,
we were all
yeah.
just talking about recently in our company. And the example where the CEO gave everyone a Gumby, right?
Mhm.
And that Gumby represented the company's values, being flexible, friendly,
Right.
approachable, all of these things that Gumby character embodied. And it was like this object that everyone could focus on and have their own. They even named a conference room after it and other characters that were symbols of the values of the company that people could have that were
Yep.
tangible to focus
Absolutely.
on,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Um, you know, uh, Alan Landers, who's a change consultant. He's written some stuff. He teaches the Drucker School certification OD and change leadership. But he talks about adaptive change and having some some central focus, uh, whether it's a character or uh, a behavior or something to that effect. That I think is he calls it a central attractor, right? Something that keeps people kind of on the beat. Uh, and one of the things that I've helped other organizations with is doing a drum circle, right? Where we actually
Mm,
use the
control.
so people by and large when I do these, like nobody else knows how to play the drums. I might have one, maybe two other people who have like touched a drum, but they haven't done it like 15 years, right? Um, so yeah,
Did you say that you use drum circles to keep the beat?
yeah,
That is brilliant.
He did
yeah. No, it's
to
to
keep
keep
to keep everyone
to
on
keep
the
you on the
beat.
beat, you know.
Yeah, which is that like rowing in the
That's
same
right.
direction. There are drums on boats. It's
Those dragon
it's a
boats
real
have the drummer, right?
I
And it
know, that's
keeps them
brilliant.
it's
going,
a really
right?
yeah.
I love
When you
that.
have this heartbeat rhythm that the bass drums or the junjuns is what the African bass drum
The
would
heart
be.
of rock and roll,
Yeah, right.
beat.
Absolutely.
Still beating.
That song by Huey Lewis starts with the and ends with the heartbeat, right?
But the literal connection that you're making between the beat of the drum that everyone can share and hear and use to keep themselves coordinated
Yeah,
with each other in a strong
sure.
team. It's it's really nice.
And it works when you can keep that like you can't bring a drum circle into your everyday uh thing in the office. And I've never seen anybody do that, and I would argue that's probably a bad idea. But bringing back the feelings and the concepts by talking about the lessons we learned when we went through this activity, at least for a while, you know, when leaders do that, it helps to keep people on.
And going back to what I was trying to say before, brings that humanity into the leader so there is a more approachable energy between a leader who's trying to lead a team into something that could
Yeah,
be
sure.
challenging. Well, creates that friendliness that is required so as not to feel intimidated or unpsychological or unsafe
Hmm.
psychologically
Hmm.
too.
Yeah,
I think that, Cheryl, is a great point, and it can really help open up the room for fun and for a little bit of people just relaxing if they see their leader jumping in with both feet and in this case maybe getting really into and taking this drum circle moment very seriously. It's a good signal to everyone else that they're having fun, and we all should do that. But it's also an opportunity for everyone else who maybe doesn't get to see that person except when they're presenting, and so they don't know this person as a person. They just know them as a figurehead, right? The
right.
bobblehead. And so it's a good opportunity for them to see, oh yeah, this is Rich. He's just a regular guy. I can have fun with this guy. And so it opens up a lot of that. And then it's easier to have fun in those kinds of moments or bring a
Sure,
little bit of levity to those moments
sure.
when people are not quite as like,
And to that effect, I've seen where a company may have something like a fun lunch or something like that, where it's out of the ordinary. They bring everybody together, um, and that could be a really good and powerful experience. Like unless what I've seen happen is where the leader like recuses themselves from the party, right? They go and I've got too many other things to do, and everybody's like, "Where is he or where is she?"
yeah,
Or
that can
it's
be
like,
tough. It can be tough.
it's like, well, that you know, there's an
I've seen,
element,
yeah, I've seen that work well too. When you finish a project or you hit a milestone, you have sort of a nice kind of team lunch or team dinner or something like that. And
right?
maybe that's different from the traditional end of year corporate dinner kind of thing or
Sure,
whatever, but it's a little more like in the moment we just did this, or we just closed a big client account. Let's celebrate that. Or, somebody just hit 25 years or, nowadays maybe 6 months at the company, so let's celebrate, and those kinds of things are nice and fun. Sometimes along those lines, it's cool when you have a surprise, a good surprise, and so,
Good surprise.
someone just comes in and says, "Hey, it's Tuesday. I brought M&Ms for everyone." What does that have to do with anything? Nothing, but it's super fun. Who doesn't like M&Ms, right? So it's that kind of stuff where it can just be fun and brings a little bit of lightheartedness.
Mhm.
Back in the day when people used to actually go to offices regularly, people would bring in donuts or other stuff like that.
Sure.
It was great because, like, the day after Halloween, you'd have this mountain of Halloween candy that everyone brought in as their leftover candy or whatever they stole from their children, things like that. So it was great. And amazingly, it was gone by lunchtime. I mean, it's one of those weird facts of corporate life. Just like
Sure.
anything food-wise is gone by lunchtime.
That's right.
Well, I think we talked on a previous episode about the younger generations, the millennials, I suppose, or maybe the Gen Zs that are entering into office spaces where they are so appreciative that there's a coffee machine, right? This is free coffee to them, right? And this would be the bare minimum for us 20 years ago.
And
Well,
and
there's a
well,
coffee
yeah, and 20 years ago, it was like that big
machine.
industrial drip maker that had really, frankly, pretty bad coffee, and now people are
Anyway,
going in and they have their fancy coffee makers with different pods with different flavors, and maybe they have the pumps for infusions of flavors and all that kinda stuff, and yeah,
yeah. But
that's been a
but
positive
for the young,
upgrade, by the way.
it has been a positive upgrade. But for the younger people who, if they were more accustomed to working from home, especially if they entered the workforce during COVID, this idea that the only coffee they were getting was coffee that they had to
Mm.
purchase
Or
and
make,
make
yeah.
in their own kitchen,
Some people still
right?
make their own
Yeah.
coffee.
So this idea that this
Yeah.
is free. Although the backlash with the Keurig and all of that is
Well,
like, the excessive trash and all of that. So there's that for the conscientious, you know, that walk into a kitchen and see all those fancy machines. But there are solutions
there
to
are,
that
Mhm.
too.
for sure.
Can I take us to break again?
Please.
Yeah. I need more coffee. Speaking of coffee.
All right. Um, why do change managers love elevators?
I don't know, Ben. Why do change managers love elevators?
Because they're used to dealing with a lot of ups and downs.
Uh,
All right, one more and we'll go to break.
okay.
Why do change managers love GPS systems?
I don't know, Ben. Why do change managers love GPS systems?
Because they're experts at recalculating.
Uh, uh,
We'll be right back.
Wow.
yeah, we'll be right.
At Harmonious Workplaces, we believe work should provide purpose, satisfaction, and growth. We empower people to thrive by fostering environments where individuals can find meaning in their work and organizations can succeed through thoughtful, well executed strategies. We're committed to making work better for the people who do it and the leaders who guide them. To discover how harmonious workplaces can impact your organization, visit www.harmoniousworkplaces.com and book a free 30-minute information session with one of our consultants today. Again, that's www.harmoniousworkplaces.com.
And we're back. So we've been talking about bringing the fun into change management, into organizational development, into the workplace, right? And you know, we we got a little silly ourselves, last year and came up with our little guy,
Mm-hmm.
Hermie,
Hermie, the
the
HR hermit
HR
crab,
hermit crab. Yeah.
which is,
And
I'm sorry, go ahead,
no, go
Rich.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say it ties into some of the stuff we've been talking about in the sense that it's a way for us to kind of have a little bit of levity around office settings, but also make it sort of a team building kind of a thing where we remember and sort of memorialize past fun or funny or sort of sad things that happen, but in a loving kind of fun way. So that can help quite a bit.
For
But it's
sure.
also, something that I think is always helpful is to keep perspective and not take things too seriously. I mean, very rarely is any change you're doing life or death. Even in hospitals, it's not that every change is a life or death change. And so having some of that perspective and just reminding people of that, like, we're doing something and it's important and it's big, but it's different from what maybe really matters in terms of life or death kind of stuff. So that can
Yep,
help a lot. Just
for sure.
again, lowering the temperature. Thing.
Yep.
Right, right. And to your point, Ben, I was wondering if, maybe change management maybe just had a bad reputation because of what change represents. And I was thinking just the other day that maybe it should be just improvement
Mm,
management,
yeah.
right? And just keep change management for maybe the more drastic or upsetting versions of change, like layoffs or downsizing or merging with a culture that you don't think is going to blend with the company you're at.
But going
Those are
on
change.
the
That's
improvement
an
part,
improvement.
yeah.
I love
Just
that.
rebrand
You're
change.
rebranding an entire industry. I love that. You heard it here first.
Yeah. Bring.
Improvement. Yes.
We can talk about that on our
There you
biz dev
go.
call.
Right on. Cool.
Yeah. No, that's really good. I think I know we're probably trying to wrap up here, but I think some of the things that I would be maybe along the lines of what with our book, some of the stuff that sometimes builds teamwork and whatnot is to help people understand the change. So I was talking with ChatGPT, look how I say that. I'm talking with a computer.
I know, right?
I was interacting with ChatGPT as you do, and it was really neat to see some thoughts around um, how a tool like that can help iterate and bring the change. Oh, look at Rich with his second mug.
Mm.
Rich is doing the double fisted branded mugs on our show. So that's another way to bring fun is to have corporate branded swag that people take pride
And
in, right?
Yep.
So
And to have
extra
absolutely
caffeine.
no shame in doing so.
yeah, good for you.
Absolutely. There's
Brilliant. But it seems like, Rich, you were saying earlier in one of our breaks that sometimes ChatGPT has a little bit of a warped sense of humor. And so that's maybe a good thing to think about in terms of when you're asking ChatGPT or when you're talking about something at the bar with your buddies, not every idea is a good idea, right? And so you have to take that idea and kind of temper it with the culture and the types of folks that you're going to be meeting with or the tenor of the environment, right? So if you're in a change situation where it's like Sherry, you were saying before, and there's layoffs or those kinds of things, or a department is moving and they're sort of sad about moving to a different type of structure or whatever, people might not be getting laid off, but they're getting reassigned and whatnot. You have to be very careful about how you try to make that a fun thing. That's challenging.
Yep.
And in the same way where a joke at the bar might sound really good, maybe that's not the joke you want to open up a meeting with, right? Because that can be also a little bit in poor taste. And so ChatGPT can be your friend, but maybe it's the friend who was not the best student at school sometimes, and so you have to take advice when you're gonna, use that person's advice taking a test sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a bad analogy.
right, right. And I have a unique take on ChatGPT in the area of comedy or humor, only in that I had an experience where I was on a team of people that were writing comedy. And when ChatGPT came into the environment, of course, the first thing we all did was, can it be better than us as writers?
Mhm.
Like immediately.
Sure.
And, you know, over time, we have seen I can't speak for the writers in that on that show or that team anymore since I'm not part of that anymore. But at that time, it was real bad dad humor was the best that AI could muster. And I have been in conversations with people recently that have noticed it is improving over time in that area, which may or may not be what you're talking about, Rich, with the warped sense of humor, right? Because everything that's being dumped into it just increases and increases. And, whether it's warped or more nuanced or even better, I don't know. But I am of the opinion that still comedy is something that will elude it. And the writers who have creative jobs are still
Yeah.
ahead. I think they're gonna
Look,
stay that way.
when we come up with like Hermie cartoons, by the way, there's another Hermie cartoon coming out. uh, Feedback Schmeedback. That's
Woo!
likely today or tomorrow. But you know, there's and I've tried to use artificial intelligence to come up with some ideas, right? And it never lands. Like whatever it is, that the timing's off. It's just ridiculous, right? I mean, to the point of where it's not funny. Whereas,
Yeah, it's a blunt, really.
yeah, right. Whereas when it comes from the person there is there's like a certain, I don't know what you would call it, giggle factor, something that you feel, down in here, that, when it makes you chuckle, it's like,
Is that
okay,
something that
I think I
we
had
can
some
assess for
I
on
don't
our
know.
assessments? Can you assess if someone has high giggle factor?
High giggle factor.
Chuckle scale.
What's that, Cheryl?
Chuckle
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 scale?
scale.
I
scale.
like that.
We'll have
I
to
like that.
we'll have to
Giggle press.
test that out and see if there's something out there, but,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't see that writers or, um, creatives, are out of the picture at all on that part of bringing fun into what we create, right? Because, uh, it's part of what makes us human, and that is something I just don't see that the technology has the ability to do that.
Yeah. It's the same reason jokes don't transfer into other languages too, right? It's the reason that certain shows that are comedy can't just be translated into a different language or culture, because the subtleties, the nuances, the coloring of different jokes have to be very specific and maybe language driven, context driven, you know.
Yep, yep.
But that's the humanity. That's why we're always going to be in there as a species.
That's right. That
Still
yes,
important.
we're still viable.
You guys hanging on to your humanity. That's awesome. Can I take us out
Okay.
with 2 more?
Oh, yes.
I
But
know we're itching well.
before you do,
Yeah.
we should tell everybody, you can get Hermie, the HR Hermit Crab, at HermieTheHRHermitCrab.com or HermieHRCrab.com. Um,
Or
and,
Amazon.com,
or Amazon. You'll find them
yep,
on Amazon.
Harmonious
These,
Workplaces website. Yeah, seriously, buy it, take a look at it. It's
yeah,
super fun, super light, and, um, yeah, if any of these jokes landed, please tell your friends and hire
that,
us to tell bad
don't
jokes
tell
at
them
your
the
next
mushroom
corporate
joke.
event.
Here. And Benachet. Oh,
Even the cats get it in on this one.
Even the
even the
cat, I
cat
love
is
that. The cat's like, "Meow, not another one." Why did the change manager visit the beach? To practice waves of resistance, or to
uh,
practice managing waves of resistance.
ways. There you go. Okay.
There you go.
Managing
The
ways.
It's like all in the telling.
It's
Can
all,
ChatGPT fix that? I don't know. All right, last one I got for you. How do you know a change management plan is successful? When
I don't,
everyone complains about it equally.
oh,
uh,
that was, that was actually not bad,
I know,
man.
right?
That
That
one
was
I
like
like.
pretty good.
Yeah. Uh,
that could be on a
Which brings
website.
us to our tomato suit, which is always fun. Like, can you imagine walking into a meeting with like a red suit with tomatoes hanging off of it, felt tomatoes?
right.
And people would look at you like you were bonkers, but then you start telling the story of Look, I'm here because I know you're gonna throw all kinds of nasty at me, so just bring it.
Bring it. Right on.
Everybody sees him or her putting on the red suit. It's not good.
Not if you're Santa in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, with that, we will thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you on our future podcasts and make change your friend.
Thanks for listening to Harmonious Workplaces. You can find Harmonious Workplaces on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and other streaming platforms. We'd love any feedback on whatever channel you find us on. Please rate, like, and share our podcast with your network, and remember to add Harmonious Workplaces to your list of favorites to get notified about each new episode. To contact Rich or Cheryl, please visit www.workbalanceconsulting.com. To connect with Ben, find him on LinkedIn or visit at www.harborsidestrategy.com.